Well, good afternoon. It's John F. Gately broadcasting you from beautiful Plymouth. You can call me Jack. It is a beautiful Monday. Beautiful Monday. We had a very nice weekend here in Massachusetts. A couple of clouds coming in now this Monday afternoon, but had about 70 something degrees. I think we're going to have a little bit cooler tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us as we look at the top stories and news in Massachusetts here on the John F. Gately Massachusetts edition. And I think this is like our second week of the show, which has been great, plugging it away every day. We did actually just do a live stream. I think that was Thursday. We did a live stream from Mass and Cass on Thursday. So that was the live show on Thursday. We went to a remote location. I went up to New Hampshire to listen to Vivek. And then on the way back, did a quick live stream from Mass and Cass. We're going to talk more about Mass and Cass later on this show. But first, we've had a very violent week in the city of Boston. Shots fired in downtown Boston amid citywide violent weekend. So right near J.J. Foley's, which is like on the backside of what I would call Jordan Marsh, for those of you who are a little bit older than me. Backside of Jordan Marsh, or younger than you might not know what I mean, but it's on Bedford Street, J.J. Foley's. We also had the pub there, The Good Life, which I think closed not that long ago, if I'm not mistaken, because of the pandemic restrictions that we didn't need, and killed that business. So thank you very much, Good Life. I'm pretty sure that's closed by now. But right there, right in front of J.J. Foley's. In fact, I think if you look at this picture, you can see the Foley's in the background there. Somebody shot right down in downtown Boston. And this is not an uncommon occurrence in the downtown crossing area anymore. It's actually a fairly common thing, sadly. It wasn't that long ago, in March, if I'm not mistaken, that we had a death in downtown, a murder in downtown crossing, I should say, on St. Patrick's Day. Young man, I think he was in the trades, Irish guy out there celebrating St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. He went to the ATM and killed out front of the ATM. Horrific. Right in downtown crossing. I don't know really if they've caught the guy, but it's a number of different times we've had a significant violence in downtown crossing area. Last night in Cambridge, nobody hit in a hail of gunfire. Police reporting near Green Rose Heritage Park. Nobody hit, fortunately. This is one of just like many headlines you could come up with over the weekend relative to gun violence in downtown Boston. Man shows up at Boston Hospital with gunshot wounds, dies. Police trying to figure out where he was shot. Obviously, he's not around with us anymore to tell us, but thankfully, how do I want to say this? Everyone is out there trying to take away your gun so that you can't protect yourself. Adam Gaffigan is as always, doing a really good job reporting the Boston news. And I'm pretty sure this is not the first time he's done this. I'm pretty sure he's done this pretty much every single year. But he's got a map up of murders in Boston. You can kind of see where they're typically concentrated in Dorchester. But you actually, in this particular case, you see there's quite a few more located over in that Roxbury, even over in the kind of the Jamaica Plain kind of borderline there with Columbus Avenue, quite a few that way, and then down into Mattapan. Of course, I'm from Mattapan. Exceptional work by Adam over at Universal Hub once again. And as always, I don't always agree with everything that Adam writes. Who can agree with everything he does? Or anybody, I can't even sometimes agree with myself, but Adam does a great job with Universal Hub. It's exceptional. Apartments, cars shot up in Dorchester, possibly running group of men who failed to hit their targets. This is also over the weekend, over at the corner of Brunswick and Normandy Streets. It just never, ever ends. Your Boston police are not able and or willing to do what it takes to stop the violence. And plus, pretty much anybody that's perpetrating the violence, and I think this is the most important point, knows that you're unarmed. You know, Massachusetts has some of the most strictest gun laws in the country and probably going to try to get stricter and stricter, notwithstanding the Bruen case. And, we're very proud of that. Yet our cities are being shot up on a nightly basis, certainly over the weekend. 2 shot on Wildwood Street, 1 dead, Mattapan. Great job, Democratic leaders. How long have you been, how long has the city of Boston, I should look this up. How long has it been since they had a Republican mayor of Boston? Decades, many decades. I'm just going to guess. You could maybe say John Collins was kind of a Republican, but I'm pretty sure he was a Democrat. We had some very conservative Democrats back in the day, but it's been Democrat for a long time. Hey, there's hope. There's hope. There's good news. There's good news. Don't you worry. Rent control is on the rocks. Let's get rid of that. Rent control is on the rocks. But the good news is the government is planning to tax their way out of the housing problem. Let me say that again. The government is ready to, meaning the far left, thinks they can tax their way out of the housing problem. So rent control is kind of not going to happen this year. It seems a very cold reception on Beacon Hill. But raising taxes on real estate transactions, yes, we can tax our way out of the problem. That sounds like it's not going to work. Let me tell you exactly what's going to happen if this proposal goes through, which is right now it's targeted at the evil millionaires. Real estate values $2 million or more. So and remember, we just passed the millionaires tax for income tax. What's going to happen with that is the same thing that's going to happen with this. They're going to tax those evil millionaires. And then when the tax doesn't generate as much money as they had predicted it will, then they'll just lower the threshold and they'll tax basically everybody. That's how this works. You get it's like a doorstop. You get in there, you edge your way in there, you start taxing the high people because it's evil. It's easy to vilify them. And then when you don't generate enough income from that, then you start to lower the threshold until basically the tax applies to everybody. Right? That's true. You absolutely positively know that's true. Overshadowed by rent control, proposals for transfer taxes pick up steam in the housing discussions. Boston Globe. Roughly a dozen cities and towns in Massachusetts are asking lawmakers for permission to impose local transfer tax. So how does this work? Basically, it means that when you sell your house, there's already a tax on the sale of your house right now. That's called the deed stamp or deed excise stamp or transfer tax. There's a lot of different phrases for it. The amount of money that the Registry of Deeds needs in order to record your deed, which is the sales slip from your real estate transaction, is actually not that much. But the amount of money that they collect for that service is far in excess of what they actually need to provide the service. And the rest of that money is a tax which goes into the general fund of Massachusetts. So basically what these cities and towns want to do is impose an additional tax on top of the tax you're already paying. And that tax would be dedicated to the community for which the property was located in. I know, right? You're already paying enough taxes, but that's exactly what's going on here or what's proposed. The revival of rent control has been pulled, protested, and picked over, and its odds appear slim, if not nil. Well, that's good news, but don't worry. They have another crappy proposal. Meanwhile, what happened to our page? There we go. Sorry. Bring that back. This is still every flight's a test flight, basically here. Meanwhile, not without controversy, backers have been steadily building support for another proposal, searching for the right combination of policy details in a political environment to get it into law. No. The Democrats do control both houses and the governorship. With mounting pressure in the legislature to act on housing, they hope they found their moment. Isn't that word, the moment, kind of like a little bit overused? Roughly 24 cities and towns have asked for a tax at the local level. It would be between a 0.5% and up to 2% of the sales price. And there's all sorts of proposals. Some are exempting single family homes if it's your primary residence. Some only apply to vacation homes. Some have a lower rate but applies to everything. I think that's Somerville. Don't hold me to that. There's a wide range of proposals here of how this could be done. And Lydia Edwards, the communist from East Boston, we have built a huge amount of momentum for it. Okay. I've heard that somewhere. I've heard that before. Oh, that's right. I heard that about rent control. You had built a lot of momentum for rent control. Huh. What happened to that? So I think some of that this is blowhard stuff. The conversation has never been more serious. As family shelters over, now the Globe is going to add in all the guilt. So you feel guilt about it so that you can feel like you should support this. Family shelters overflow, the shortage of mid-priced homes grows and more acute, and the cost of living continues to climb. Gee, whose fault is it for the cost of living continuing to climb? Oh, that's right. That would be Joe Biden, the Democrats, with inflation. Thank you so much, Joe. Yeah, thanks a lot, Joe. Appreciate that. Wonder why housing is hard to come by. Because Boston is a city of no. Especially Boston, but Massachusetts, also in this category. But especially your urban areas, in particular Boston, it's a city of no. This is a story from BUR talking about efforts to allow backyard units, which are sometimes called accessory dwelling units. Sometimes it could be like a glorified shipping container or like a cottage in someone's backyard. And Mattapan is a targeted neighborhood for this. Some of you might be aware that Mattapan was originally developed in the 1920s as a streetcar suburb, and a good number of these homes have fairly decent backyards. At one time, Mattapan was a highly sought-after suburb, effectively, of Boston, when they developed the streetcars and you could commute. All right, so the part of this story, which is very, very interesting, is in the second paragraph, laid out a final version of the plan, the result of 5 years of community engagement that builds upon previous efforts in Mattapan. There's an online meeting April 26th. Oh, I'm sorry, that already happened. If approved, the plan will function as a guide for developers and residences in the year. So it took them 5 years to bring forth this plan, which is still not approved. Still not approved. This whole concept of accessory dwelling units has been around for a really, really long time. Decade more. But it takes Boston 5 years to even think about it. And you wonder why there's not enough housing. Right? And so their response is we should tax. If we tax, we could tax our way out of it. Here's another idea. I don't know. Maybe allow the free market to build to the demand. Allow the free market to respond to the demand. But left doesn't let you do that. The left said, oh, the market is broken. The market is broken because you broke it. There was a time in Massachusetts where we responded very, very well to a massive housing need. And this was between the decades of approximately, say, 1880 to 1940, about 60 years. And how did we do that? We invented this housing unit. Some of you are going to know what I'm going to say here. We invented this housing unit called, which is unique to Boston, or not unique, but certainly there's not many of these elsewhere, called the triple decker. The triple decker, an incredibly efficient housing unit. Couldn't build one today because it doesn't meet, all sorts of zoning laws and hallway narrowness and all that. But incredibly efficient little housing unit thing, right? Some of you may have lived in a triple decker. My family, we had a double decker in Mattapan when I was a little kid. We had a double decker. We didn't have a triple decker, but same concept. And these were fantastic homes. the vast majority of which are still standing today. And the market developed that home. The market developed that home to meet a need. I'm not saying that we need to build more triple deckers today in 2023, but we need the market to come up with our version of the triple decker. But everything takes forever in Boston to get approved. Everything takes forever in Boston to get approved. It's just the way it is, right? And then they run around and say to themselves, oh, I don't understand why we don't have enough housing, when it takes 5 years to get an accessory dwelling unit policy passed, and it's still not passed. Well, we don't have enough housing. Let's tax people. Will they ever learn? All right, so we're not going to watch this. I don't want everybody to click off, but we're not going to watch this. But Adam Riley did a story here at GBH. What sets Woo's approach to mass and cast? What sets it apart? And if we were to watch this incredibly boring video, and thankfully for you, I had to watch it, which features Tori Bedford and who else is it? Who else? I can't remember. And I'm going to get this guy's name wrong. Yahweh Miller. Is that how you say it? Forgive me, Mr. Miller. I think I mispronounced your name. Forgive me. We're not going to play.
We're also told they could ask the city for help, including shelter, substance abuse treatment, and relocation back to where they came from. If that sounds familiar, it's because people living at Mass and Cass have seen their homes cleared away before, including in 2019 under then Mayor Marty Walsh, in 2021 under then acting Mayor Kim Janey, and in January 2022 under current Mayor Michelle Wu. For those of us who don't live or work at Mass and Cass, seeing these scenes repeated again and again can create a sense that not much is changing. But Mayor Wu has made a point of saying that despite continued challenges, things at Mass and Cass are getting better. Here she is late last year in an interview with WBUR.
All right, so having been there just myself last Thursday, things are really not getting better. It's better than, say, maybe 2021, but not much. They fenced off more of the area, the sidewalks and that type of thing, but it was so incredibly dangerous there that I didn't feel comfortable actually standing in front of Atkinson Street by myself, unattended, looking into the camera because I couldn't see what was going on behind me. I didn't want to get stabbed or poked with a needle or something with some anger. They're very, very sensitive when you go there with the camera showing that, exposing the situation. They don't like that. They don't like that when you're down there with the camera showing that it's a mess. And the simple fact of the matter is, what Adam said was true. 2019, 2021, 2022, and now in 2023, there's been a cleanup. Yet, it just comes back. In fact, if you listen to Tori Bradford, who's in that article there, further on in that story, she will tell you that a lot of the guys that were there just moved to Southampton Street, which is literally like half a block away. And I was there on Thursday, and I'll tell you, there's still tents down on Atkinson Street. So when it gets to how the mainstream media lies about things, and they put up this headline, what sets apart Wu's approach to Mass and Cass? Let me tell you, the answer is absolutely nothing. Say it again. There's nothing different with Wu's approach to it than Marty Walsh's approach to it. There's nothing different. It's still there. They had the sweep, which was not a sweep, because then they said, well, if they refuse, then they refuse. It's a joke. Meanwhile, the city continues to hand out surreptitiously needles, cookers, and crack pipes. So there is nothing different there. They don't have the will to, number one, support the closure of the border where all these drugs are coming from. Don't have the will to do that. Number two, on a micro level, and they speak about this in this article here, is that Wu is doubling down on what they call, I think I'm going to get this phrase wrong, but low barrier of entry to housing. In other words, they'll house you even if you're still a crack addict. What does that incentivize? It just gives away housing for you could be a crack addict and qualify and still continue to be a crack addict. Low barrier to entry housing. There's another phraseology for it that the far left has come up with. Forgive me if I don't adapt their proper phraseology. And then stop giving up drug paraphernalia. How about we do those three things to begin with? That's a start. I think that's a pretty good start. All right. So last week we spoke to you about the woman who was eating her lunch on the Green Line near Parkett's Corner, just outside of Boston University stops. And someone next to her was doing her hair, combing her hair, and she had a flip out that some of the hair might get into her whatever acai bowl, whatever she was eating for lunch. And so she stood up and she slugged the woman. So today, the MBTA, I know, just another day in Boston, right? Today, the MBTA has released a tweet as a courtesy to your fellow riders to help keep the T clean. Please avoid eating or drinking while on vehicles and in stations. Please keep your food and drinks in closed containers and dispose of any trash in the proper receptacles. MBTA.com/rider/rules. Oh, there's a video. Let's play the video. I have not watched it. Let's see if there's a video here. Love the music. Oh, there's no words. Oh, it's the same thing as the tweet, but I'm so glad they spent money on this video. Oh God, make it stop. I'm so glad they spent money on the video. That's just bleeping awesome. Thank you so much for spending money on the video. That's just fantastic. Meanwhile, the governor is finding it absolutely unacceptable. Calls out the condition of T stations, but says T is safe. So it's let me just get this straight. The current condition of T stations are absolutely unacceptable. Let me say that again. Current conditions at MBTA stations are absolutely unacceptable, but the T is safe. Which one is it? Make up your mind, Maura. It's either absolutely unacceptable or it's safe. I don't think it can be both. When we've had that lady got hit by the box at the MBTA station that was up there for 10 years, and it was a biohazard sensor from some test that Homeland Security done a decade ago. Or how about the time where the train got caught on the bridge and burst into flames? Someone actually jumped into the river. I think more than one. How about the time the train got the guy's hand caught? What was that, at Broadway Station, and he died? Awful. I mean, how could you say it's absolutely unacceptable, but it's safe? Or maybe it's just the Globe covering things up. And to be fair, I mean, Mara's only been here, a hot minute, right? So I don't think we can land this thing on Mara personally, but we can land it on the feet of the legislature controlled by Democrats for decades, and also our Democratic and Republican governors, right? They all suck. And, I also say that here in Massachusetts, there is not much of a difference between Democrat and Republican. They're all in the tank. Just recently, the House of Representatives on Beacon Hill in Massachusetts here passed a $56 billion state budget, now going over to the Senate. And in that vote for the budget, it was 157 to nothing. In other words, all of the Republicans, not that there are many to begin with, but all of the so-called Republicans voted for the state budget crafted by the Democrats. There's effectively no difference between a Republican and Democrat from those that are elected. Maybe the rank and file people that walk around on this regular purse people, but not from Republicans in Massachusetts. Elected Republicans in Massachusetts are so in the tank, It's ridiculous. They're Republicans in name only. That's just not just a figure of speech. It's a way of life for them. Last year, we had any number of Republicans that endorsed Democrats. We had any number of Republicans saying that they wouldn't sponsor fundraisers for other Republicans because they have to go to work. Oh, at the end of the day, I have to go work with that person. Wouldn't you want to work with a Republican rather than a Democrat? So basically, you scumbag Republican, you got lucky enough to get elected as a Republican here in Massachusetts, but you don't want to do anything to help another Republican get elected. Well, guess what? Next time it's your turn to come around and get elected, when the phone don't ring, it will be me. All right, so you may have heard, and this is our last story for today's edition this Monday afternoon. It's a beautiful day. You may have heard that Andrea Estes, I think that's how you say her name, she was an investigative journalist over at the Boston Globe. She got fired, canned. What are the other words for fired? Some of you come up with pink slipped, because she totally and absolutely screwed up this story about the MBTA managers about a week or so ago, whenever that was, splashed on the front page of the Sunday Globe. And I think they got, it was 9 managers they were questioning. I think they got the information about 4 of them wrong. Don't hold me that. At least 3 that I know of. And I think it was 4. And a big black eye for the Boston Globe and their new editor. And as a result, they fired Miss Estes. And she had been with the Globe for a long decades, I think, long time. So where do you go to get your reputation back after the Globe basically slanders you on the front page of the Sunday Globe with incorrect facts? And one place you might go is Twitter. So here is Dennis Lytton with his Ukrainian flag, right? Oh, man. And next to his U.S. flag. Dennis Lytton, he's one of the managers that was accused of not living in Massachusetts. Yeah, he was accused of living many, many hundreds of miles or farther away. 2 weeks ago, the Boston Globe and editorial board about me and others was filled with mistruths and a fabricated quote from me. So not only is he alleging that Miss Estes got the facts wrong, but that she fabricated a quote. No, that's like a double down bad journalism. It was wildly defaming to myself and 3 other employees. So yeah, right, 4 employees altogether. Large retractions, corrections, and the departure of a veteran Globe reporter, Andrea Estes, I keep on pronouncing that wrong, followed. In other words, she got fired. And then he writes a really long thread just bashing the Globe about this. He thanks Dan Kennedy and Jim Math. I'm not sure who they are. There's some transit. And Dan Kennedy's kind of like, this supposed outsider, totally in the tank. But every once in a while, he'll write something that's fair about the Globe. But usually he's a Globe butt boy. And he thanks them. Andrea Estes' Globe. The article's origin form on the front page of Sunday paper claimed several other executives and I lived elsewhere in the country and work almost exclusively remotely, when in fact 4 of us live in Boston and or nearby. The article made verifiably false claims about our residencies, marriages, and families. Yes, that is creepy. And in the case of my friends Michelle and Jennifer, misogynist. I don't know why it would be extra bad. I don't know what was written. I don't know. I'd have to look into that. Most egregiously in my case, Estes fabricated a quote after a brief conversation I had with her, with the false quote from me asserting that I was in Los Angeles when I was in Boston. Man, really sloppy journalists don't let the facts get in the way. Remember, this follows Mike Barnacle, Patricia Smith, Joan Finocchi, or I think still works there. They have a long, long history of, how do I want to say this? Making shit up. The editorial piled on from the feature on Sunday repeated the fabricated quote, which purports to be in my voice saying I was in Los Angeles. That sounds maybe bordering on actionable, right? Maybe he's teeing up a lawsuit here. These were not mere errata or minor details. Rather, the claims in the Globe cut to the heart of why others and I were in the story at all. If allowed to stand, they could destroy reputations and livelihoods. In other words, Globe, you totally bleeped up here. And detract from the many other problems the MBTA deserves media scrutiny for. So this guy is saying, hey, listen, you totally screwed up here in my story. And the opportunity cost for that was that you took resources writing this story when you should have been writing other things about the MBTA, which is not perfect. He's being kind of honest there. I like that. Shortly after the article was published, I contacted a reporter and let them know the story was corrected shortly thereafter. Over the next several days, other corrections were made. I was heartened that during this time, the collapse of the article noted in the journalism community. Okay, good. Estes, Globe veteran since the 70s, gone. And the relatively new editor, Nancy Barnes, who must be on a short lease at this point, has promised to investigate what wrong. You think? I appreciate the apparent commitment of the Globe's management. Oh, I love that. The apparent commitment. Because who knows if they ever actually get to the bottom of it. Look forward to the results of education. Do you think this guy's going to get like an apology letter? Or maybe even like a letter, mea culpa in the Globe? I don't think so. I don't think so. And I love how this guy, many people should have written this type of tweets before. I can't tell you how disturbing it was to be accused of cheating the public trust when I know it wasn't true. Which makes me think, how many other times has the Globe done this to other people and they just haven't had the wherewithal? They just haven't had the testicular fortitude to stand up for the Globe. A vital press is vital to hold power and government account. I live in Boston and I'm committed to my job at the MBTA. Once again, I ask you, how many other times have people been raked over the coals by the Globe and haven't had the guts to actually stand up to the Globe and just took it and just took their beating because it's just not worth it? I think a lot of times, I've been on the phone with the Globe. I've been in the Globe before. I've written op-eds for the Globe before. And, it's a peculiar, I've never seen with any other outlet, the hubris that it comes from a Globe reporter. Not only do they believe that their paper, which is barely in print anymore anyways, their paper comes down from a mountaintop on granite tablets every morning. Not only do they believe that, but they themselves think they're infallible. It's this institutional being. You would think that losing their giant headquarters and being crammed into some nondescript office tower in downtown Boston would be like a comeuppance. That they would actually think, wow, maybe our bleep does in fact smell. But you never hear that from the Globe. All right. Hey, I'm John F. Gately. You can call me Jack from beautiful Plymouth, America's hometown in Massachusetts. We're going to open up these windows here and get some fresh air. You have a great afternoon. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.